I didn't know it did that. I've been on Instagram Live for at least an hour before. That's crazy. It must be a newer feature.
What's happening? It like started counting down like 15, 14,
Yeah.
13.
Yeah, I couldn't even see that it was counting.
I didn't see it either. It just cut me off.
I didn't notice that. But
I'm sorry.
Covers, and your friend that designed the book covers is obviously very, very talented, very talented artist. Does she design any other book covers, or does she do any other art projects?
She has a lot of art projects. I think this is the first time she's ever designed a book cover. And I will point anyone in her direction. If anyone on here wants to know what her Instagram, I actually have her Instagram handle on my website. I don't think it's in here. No, I don't. I have her Instagram handle on my website under, I think each book has its own page. And her Instagram handle is in there. I don't remember what it is. It starts with an M. But her name is BB, and she does beautiful. I mean, look at this. Beautiful artwork. I love it. And she does have an Instagram. And I think that she would probably be willing to do some kind of artwork on commission for a book cover. And then, like I said, another friend's the one that put the book cover itself together, and added this element, and then just like the text and everything. We went back and forth on the font for that, but we ultimately decided on that font because I just think it looks very beautiful. But yeah, I love the book covers. I'm just incredibly proud of them, and I do think they're striking, and I think that they go against a lot of like the genre norm for romance book covers, which I think this series deserves for me. I think this is an important series. Maybe I'm just being biased, but I think that this series deserves, I think this series deserves more than a half-naked, muscular dude with rippling abs. I don't know. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those covers. Obviously, I'm getting ready to launch a new cover for my first book, Cool for the Summer, which has half-naked dudes on it. So I'm not saying anything is wrong with those types of covers. I'm just saying that for this particular series, I wanted something more symbolic, something deep. As you had said earlier, I do tend to write more on the literary side. And I do write a lot of poetry. I don't share it very often, but I do write poetry. So I think that I really do try to think about covers and make them symbolic, especially for this type of series where there is a lot of metaphors used, a lot of symbolism, a lot of I don't know, poetic. I don't like saying that, but I feel like I'm tooting my own horn or something when I say that.
The poem that was in the book is very, very good.
There are 3 in total. The Ark is the last one. It's probably my best one. I wrote the first 2 when I was 18 and going through very similar things. And then the last one I wrote when I was a little bit older and more mature. But yeah, I do think that my books tend to be a little bit more on the poetic side. I hope it's not like grossly poetic where there's a metaphor every 3 sentences, because that's not good. I try to like use metaphors like you would spices in cooking. I like to like zhuzh it up a little bit with metaphors, but not overdo it, because then you kind of lose the story within them. But I wanted my books and covers to reflect the type of writing that's inside, which is definitely more, like you said, literary and poetic. One of my friends is an English teacher, and she's like, she told me that she likes my books because they're really fun, but they're also a little more highbrow and literary. And I was like, what does that even mean? I've never taken a creative writing class. I've never taken any kind of class that taught me how to write. I just do. So yeah, I was like, so I don't know what that means, but thanks. I'm going to say that that's a compliment.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever read The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. I believe it's a Pulitzer Prize winning novel. Donna Tartt also wrote The Secret History. You may enjoy some of her books. Possibly. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt is probably one of my all-time favorite books ever. So I would be curious as if you like it or not. I don't think you would like any of my books because I write in first person, and I think,
Oh yeah, it's a struggle for me.
so I don't think, because I remember reading in the book that.
Oh, it was just a joke. I was making a joke. It was nothing bad. Like I just actually baited a book for a friend, and it was all in first person, present tense, and I adjusted. I just personally like third person, and I don't know why that is. First person makes more sense for MM genre because then you don't have to overuse their names. So I get why people choose first person, and it's just a personal preference. It was just, I just made a joke in it because not everything in my book is things that I believe necessarily, but it was a joke because one of my friends was talking about how she hated first person, so it just kind of ended up making its way into the book.
Yeah.
I like I said, I read it's called her book was called A Risky Play, and I read that, and it's first person, present tense. I do prefer present tense for books, but I don't mind past tense. Nothing, very little bothers me. I don't think I'd like second person, or that kind of thing, but first person past, first person present, whatever. I'll typically read it. I do prefer third, though. I'm not going to lie to you. I do prefer third person.
Okay. MK, do you have any other questions for Lena?
I was just gonna ask you if you would ever shoot into like another genre with your writing, ever.
I think I'll probably continue. I think I'll probably continue in like the LGBTQ genre, but I definitely my next series,
like romance mystery. I mean, it could totally be in that,
yeah.
the LGBTQ. I just wondered if you'd go into it maybe a different, not just only romance, but maybe adding something else to it or anything like that.
I don't know. I've played with the idea of doing something more on like the mystery suspense side. I do really like writing suspense. I think I pulled it off really well in the third book of this series.
Yeah.
I like to build intrigue and things of that nature because I have a personal rule when I write that I don't reveal something until it's revealed to someone else in dialogue. So for example, Harlan's story, you don't find out until he tells Luca. You don't find out that Harlan is, his mom is kind of not there until he has that conversation with her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like my personal rule. And it's how I think I try to keep the books more intriguing and having people ask the right questions. The next books that I'm going to be releasing is a dark mafia romance.
Oh, cool.
It's definitely, whereas this book was, this series, the Take Me to Church series, was dark because of outside factors. This one's dark more because of the characters are morally gray. And the second one in particular is a very toxic relationship that does get better. But that's going to be my next on my list. I'm writing a rock star romance. I have a lot of just random, like some that fall more into erotica that I've written that I just haven't gotten a chance to like fix up. But I definitely like the idea of experimenting. I know that like people always like stay in your genre, stay in your lane. But I don't know. I just think staying in your lane is really friggin' boring. So I like to genre bend and genre jump and bend like those rules because I don't think there should be any rules in publishing, and you should write what you're passionate about. Will that pay the bills? I don't know. But I definitely, I have like a list of story ideas. Some of them are supernatural. Some of them are more like post-apocalyptic. Some of them are like out there, like a pirate falls in love with a bioluminescent merman and like random crap like that. Yeah. So like I have like a full list.
Yeah.
So it's not that I definitely have like ideas for a mystery or like a suspense / thriller. It's just finding the time. And I think that I hope that my readers would trust me enough to take them through a book experience that they might not necessarily go for outside of my writing. But that's my goal, is for people to be like, I trust this author and her writing to pull me through this genre that I might not necessarily enjoy. That's my goal. And I think I've done that. One of my alpha readers, she's a good friend of mine as well. She started with me in the Take Me to Church series, which is very different than the Mafia one I'm going to be releasing soon. And she was like, I don't know if you're going to make me a fan of this. And by the end of it, she was like, I need more. So I was like, yeah, okay, that I'll take.
Yeah. You never know.
Have you done any book festivals? Like when I was in New Orleans in March, I was staying at Hotel Monteleone, and I found that the Tennessee Williams Book Festival was taking place inside the hotel, and I stumbled upon it because I had noticed that there was something that looked like a bookstore on the second floor. So I wandered on in and I started, shopping through the books, and I noticed that everybody had lanyards on. And then I realized that I had stumbled into the the Tennessee Williams Book Festival, maybe by mistake, but I bought a couple of books. And I also noticed that the LGBTQ plus genre is very prominent in that particular book festival. So I didn't know if you had heard of them, or I started following them on Instagram. That particular book festival, I believe it takes place around the dates of like March 20th in New Orleans. And they have, from what I could tell, they have a pretty big LGBTQ like section of book, and that's kind of a big genre for that particular book festival.
I've never done any book festivals. Unfortunately, I'm in a pretty secluded area. I live in a city, but it's a West Virginia city, which means it's not. And it's about 3 hours to the nearest city for me. So it's kind of harder for me to find opportunities like that. And then there's also the issue of like upfront cost. I don't have a lot of funds to spend on really anything, advertising. Yeah. And it's not even like the registration for the book fair, but it's, you have to bring several copies of your own books, which can get pretty expensive and things of that nature. And I'm not saying that this career and this passion of mine isn't worth it. It's just, I don't have anyone that I can just call and be like, hey, can I borrow $300? I grew up incredibly poor. And my mom is still incredibly impoverished, and my dad, he died a few years ago. So I don't have like anyone that's just easy for me to be like, hey, can I borrow a couple $100? And I have like so much student loan debt, and it's just growing up in poverty means that you start off life in poverty, and it's so hard to claw your way out of that. And I don't want people to think I don't take this seriously, because I do. I love writing. I love giving my works into the world. I just don't have the upfront funds that a lot of people have to sink, $10,000 into editing and a cover. And I just was incredibly lucky with people who believed in my writing enough to help me edit on my own and draw these lovely, gorgeous book covers for me. And, I am incredibly lucky with the people I've surrounded myself with that believe in what I write so much. But I also don't have anyone I can just be like, hey, I'm trying to start an author company, a publishing company. Can I borrow $10,000 to get myself off the ground? I don't have that. And being from the kind of area I'm from, even though I have a pretty good paying job now, like outside of writing, it's just incredibly difficult to find those extra funds that aren't going toward, my really expensive car payment because I didn't have a down payment for my car, or my student loan debt because I didn't have parents that helped me with student loan debt, or our house payment. Well, we don't even have a house payment, but our rent, which is incredibly expensive and twice as much as a mortgage would be. And all of these things that I think so many people who grew up maybe a little bit more privileged don't even think about. because they can, maybe their mom gave them their first car and they were able to use that as a trade-in for their next car. Or maybe their parents signed on the house loan for them. Or maybe their parents took out a loan for them to get an education. I didn't have any of that. So I've kind of had to learn to do everything myself, and I took that into being an author, which unfortunately means I don't have a lot of the disposable income to sink into a lot of advertising and driving 3 hours to go to a book festival that I'd had to stay all night for, and these things that sound really beautiful and lovely and something I would love to do. But I can't. And maybe someday, maybe that's the goal. Like someday I can like really put time and energy and money into this. But for now, I'm just going to try to do things as cost effective as possible, and hope that my readers continue to support me through the struggle, and maybe word of mouth.
Right.
Exactly.
Have you ever put anything out on Wattpad?
No, but I did start off in fan fiction. I'm not going to tell you the ship or the fandom. I keep that one to myself. But a lot of my readers actually came from fan fiction because they became a really big fan of my writing there, and that's where I got a lot of my current readers.
Okay.
That's cool.
People really like look down their nose on fan fiction and stuff, and I get it in some ways. But
I think
it's a really it's a really good diving board for a lot of people, a really good starting point.
Yeah.
It lets you build a fan base, and it lets you discover things about your writing and improve yourself without having people like demolish you in reviews. People are just as mean in fan fiction, but at least they're not paying for it, so they're not feeling like they got ripped off. They just paid their time for it. So I think fan fiction just allows you to explore more things that maybe traditional writing doesn't necessarily allow.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. I had another question for you, and it has slipped
Okay.
my mind.
It happens.
Yeah. Oh, I know what it is. I was going to ask you, Anna Todd. Are you familiar with Anna Todd's After?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Okay.
I've never read it, but I'm familiar with it. It's my problem with it is I'm not like bashing anyone their what they enjoy reading. I think that sometimes the characterization of, I think his name is Hardin or whatever, is a little unforgivable. When you're writing an asshole character, there's a fine line of redeemability, and I don't know if she would be able to achieve that for me, and that's just my personal preference. We had that discussion on consent earlier, so maybe I just have really high standards. But Anna Todd's a great example of someone who started off in fan fiction.
Right.
50 Shades of Grey started off as a fanfic of
Right.
Twilight, I think. So there's a lot of great examples of that happening, and
Right.
Wattpad making people famous and all of that. And maybe someday that'll happen for me, but I doubt it. I don't think I have anything on Wattpad anymore. I think I deleted everything because their terms of service is a little sketchy these days. So I try to I'm a little weary of it now. But maybe I'll do something serialized. I was thinking about trying out Vila, but I heard that not a lot of readers are on it yet. But that's not something that I'm against. I do think that I do really well when I have a deadline. So if I'm writing with a deadline in mind, that helps me. Because I'm just struggling with this current series I've been writing because I don't have a deadline and I don't have any expectations. I have to, people aren't expecting me to post a chapter or whatever, like serial platforms.
Right.
So I thought about trying out serial platforms just because I think that it might give me, I'm a procrastinator to a fault. And I was the kind of kid that would do a paper the night before and still get an A. Because my best work comes out of being in pressure. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a big fan though of people starting off on the these serialized sites, and because I think that's a good way to build readers and to build a fan base that will follow you. Some of them only expect you to continue writing in fandoms and things like that nature, but you do find some really true fans. And I've every like writing group I'm in, and people are like, "Oh, how do you find your readers?" I'm usually like, pick a fandom, go write in a fandom for a year, and you'll definitely find readers and supporters, because people end up falling in love with the way you build a world, and the way you, your personal writing style and your character arcs and your story arcs and things of that nature. So they'll read whatever you write after that. And it's just finding those people that fall in love with it.
Right. Yeah. Very good.
That's cool.
Very good. Well, tell our listeners how they can find you, all your sites that they can look for your books on, and tell us, your handles on all your social.
Well, my social media handles on everything is at LM Archer Books, the same one that I have for Instagram. I have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. So I'm on all those platforms. I'm more active on some rather than others, which happens. My books can be all found on Amazon, or you can find them on lmarcherofficial.com. And I have signed copies available on my Etsy shop. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Nope, that's it. I'm pretty easy to find.
Is your Etsy shop the same name?
Yeah, same handle at LM Archer Books. Sorry, I've been talking a while. My throat's starting to.
You're good.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate you telling us all about your story and about, your books and your characters, and this series, this Take Me to Church series with, the first book is Born in Sickness. The second one is
Born in Sickness. And then we have Sweetness and Innocence is the second book.
Sweetness and Paradise and Death, and then Gentleness and Sin is the fourth book.
One.
Yeah. And then you're working on a Mafia series right now.
Yeah, it's a trilogy. And then, it's written and it's being edited, and, the fun part, sarcastically, the fun part.
That's the part that takes the longest a lot of times. MK is working on 2 books right now at the same time. I don't even know how she does it, because
I'm kind of that way too.
I have to just be down the rabbit hole, literally concentrating on nothing but what I'm writing for 6-8 hours a day, or if it comes that easy, I work on it.
2 different genres too. So
I think that helps. I think if it's 2 different genres, it helps, because it helps you keep them straight in your head.
Yes.
I've done that before.
Kind of helping me right now.
While I was writing the Take Me to Church series, I was also writing a magical BDSM, what's going to end up being like a series. So I get that, because it was just very different. So it was okay for me to
you can
in my head. I could separate it in my head. I haven't done that in a long time though. So
yes.
Yeah, I'm about to jump into a completely different genre. I'm going to write historical fiction that takes place during the American Revolution.
Good luck.
I'm going to Long Island in New York to do some more research. I'll be there next week. I've already gone up there and done research. I have ancestors that founded the state of New Jersey. So they came over from London in the 1600s. And so I kind of got interested because one of my father's cousins, his cousin's wife or something, a long time ago, did all this research and gave my father this folder of papers and said, oh, and so I kept that for a long time, and finally did something about it, and I'm now in the DAR, but and hold a position, do a lot of volunteer stuff with the chair a couple of positions in that with the Good Citizen. I just did some award ceremonies for seniors yesterday and the day before with the Good Citizen Award. And so I kind of got interested in especially the Culper Spiring, which is
Yeah.
Washington Spies. And I kind of got fascinated by watching Turn on Netflix and kind of got interested in that, and kind of went up to Long Island and Setauket, New York, and did the Culper Spiring tours and kind of got really interested in that. So I'm going to try to write in that kind of, that's the Culper Spiring, but kind of do blend fiction with, you know, fact and fiction together. And some of the authors that I really enjoy reading that have done a really good job on that is Laura Camoy and Stephanie Dre, who wrote America's First Daughter, and they also wrote a book called My Dear Hamilton. And both of them, they work together, you know, on the same book, and they seamlessly tie this fiction and this fact together, and it's very impressive. And I don't know if I could, but I'm going to tackle it. And so
Historical
I'm kind of
fiction
nervous.
scares me to death. I don't think I could ever do it. It's one of
Yeah, me
those, it's
Yeah,
very
and
scary.
I'm writing it in third person. I'm not writing
You're in,
it in first.
Third person.
Yeah, well,
so
I
that's
mean,
going to be hard for you to adjust to too, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah, probably a little bit. I mean, maybe first comes more naturally, but yeah, I don't think the genre calls for first, though. It just
No.
doesn't
Yeah,
feel that
yeah.
way.
Historical fiction's usually more in like the third person genre. Like, we were just talking. I was like, I know that romance is typically first person these days, but I'm fine with not doing what everyone else is doing. Obviously, that's not my style. Maybe when third person rolls back around, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe if third person around, I'll get this.
Well, we have really enjoyed our conversations
Yes.
with you, and thank you so much for taking the time
Yes,
to
thank
be
you.
with us. And so we've had a really good conversation, and I'm going to spend a lot of hours working on edits for this this episode.
Good luck.
So
Good luck.
I may be up until 1 a.m. I'm not sure.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about my books, and this was a really great conversation. I enjoyed your questions. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I love that we can, you know, agree to disagree about certain things, and we can still be friends about it, and that's the most important part, and that's what's beautiful about being human.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about, you know, communication. It's all about trying to understand someone else, because you never know. You never know until you ask. And I think it's important to ask those questions. It's important to find out, because everybody has a story. Everybody has something that you can learn from. And I think that's important. It's important to learn. And reading allows you to learn, and reading is very important, and books are very important, and different types of books are important. So all books are important, and so we feel that all books are important. We feel that all authors are important, and I love that we started this podcast in January, and I am excited to bring new and interesting and different authors to the platform. And I think you are a very, very talented writer.
Yes.
So congrats on that.
Thank you.
Is definitely a gift. And it's kind of like singing. Some people are really good singers and musicians, and I can't sing a lick. I can't sing anything.
Same.
I can't sing a note. I wish I could. It would be great. But that's one thing I always wish I could do. But I think you're very talented. So,
well, someone out there wishes they could write like you, so that's okay.
So good luck with the next book, and we will send you the link to the Spotify episode so that you can share it on all your platforms. And we thank all of our listeners and everybody out there. Thank you to Anchor Podcast. Thank you to